Tim will follow up with you all later on client examples, other examples of similar sites that you might be able to peruse as white papers as well on all of our clients. If it's okay, I'm just going to kind of jump right into the demo and kind of show you the back end of dotCMS and step right into your list, and then we'll finish up with anything. If you want to hear about examples, client use cases, clients that are doing a particular type of sign-on or anything like that, we'll be more than happy to follow up there in the end if that sounds good to you.
Sure, that sounds fine.
All right, we're already recording. And the first thing I want to just point out as far as resources, so if you just are evaluating dotCMS, one of the nicest ways to do that, and it's a real differentiator between dotCMS and other content management systems at the enterprise level, is that we expose all of our training 100%, 24/7 on the site. So we have, content contributor training level, content architect which would be kind of like what are the back-end features for webmaster, web developer, which is front-end development, and JavaScript, HTML, and Velocity, which is a light scripting language we have sitting on top of our Java. So, and if you want to do Java development and extend,
is that the Velocity markup language?
Yes, it's an Apache language.
Yep. I've used it a few times. Yep, just asking.
Yeah, it's super easy to work with. So if you wanted to know something about, building template design themes, or if you wanted to know about pulling paginated content pulls, there's a 17-minute video that shows you a complete example. Some of them even have the sample code, like custom code fields, so you can build dynamic fields that interact with each other. There's, files you can download that are even part of the video. So that's a big differentiator between dotCMS and other systems. We aren't afraid of you taking a test drive, and we fully show you everything that you might want to do, no matter what the level is. We've even been supporting this since our 4 version. So, even if some older client's been with us for a while is on the 4 version, those videos are still there for them. So that's a nice resource to have for whenever you bring in another new person on staff. You have training there, online training courses there available for them to take immediately and get ramped up as fast as possible. Whenever you download dotCMS, you get this Quest financial site. We, some of our financial clients are, Royal Bank of Canada. There's, all right, they're neighbor years. We brought them not only into the kind of their headless, space, but we also launched them in the cloud as well. Wawanesa is also a client in your neighborhood there. TELUS, Loyalty One, Mortgage Alliance, SIPAC Park Reservation System in Canada. Those are all clients of dotCMS as well. Deutsche Bank, we have a lot of financial clients. And so we just came up with this kind of little sample financial client that has things that show webmasters how to do things like personalization. So, and then we expose this as a flyout just so you can kind of see what's going on the back end, although this flyout would never be the part of any real site. So that if you click on something like, you can see that the banner right now is kind of like the default banner, but if we click on global investment as a article that we would like to read more about, then let's see, am I in incognito? No. Then, let me see, let me clear my browsing data. Clear data. And let me quit. Let me hit my Chrome again. Oh, I know why. I just started this guy up clean, and I didn't put an enterprise edition. Okay, give me 1 second, and I will apply a license. I was like, why am I not seeing my personalization? All right, let me apply a license because that is an enterprise feature. Sorry, I just didn't want you to see all my junk that I had done to my local host here, so I kind of cleaned him off. And I forgot to reapply a license, so sorry. Okay, so now we got a license applied. let me log out and hit this site on the front end again. And so now if we click on global investment, you can see we're instantly associated with global investor over here to the right. And what we're doing right now is we're pulling content throughout the site, knowing that this particular visitor is interested in global investing. So if I go back to the main page, the banner has now changed, the footer has now changed, and this news listing right here has changed to be associated with somebody that is a global investor they might be interested in. We go to other areas, this is the news listing again, but on a different page. We can see that that maintains. And we give you this little flyout so you could actually, if the algorithm of what you're interested, where you are in the world, what language is set in your browser, there's a myriad of things that are rules engine you can put into the rules engine and then determine who it is that you're trying to target and how you want to identify them. You can even put in your own rules and conditions. But if you want to force the change to wealthy prospect, or then we can see now this is pulling fine art, and we go back to our homepage. Now this is a totally different header and footer, right? Got a little airplane showing down there at the bottom, and you can see it's aggregating tags from all of the content that we are interested in, and it's starting to accumulate that data on the user. So a lot of different things like that are here on the front end, how to show, content in some sort of charted or graphed kind of way, geolocated news and events, geolocated offices around the world, how to do things like that. So I'm going to log into the back end. We're going to actually take a look at this About Us page in just a second. So I wanted to show you what that looks like from the front. And I can do a /edit, which would lead me to exactly this About Us page on the back end. Or I could do a kind of a default /admin, sign in with my username and password, role-based permissions. And the default takes us to our dashboard. This dashboard is a portlet that is meant for integration with whatever analytics system you're using. This particular portlet is set up for integration with Google Data Studio. So we have an account that we have set up for the starter that integrates with this and shows this kind of demo data for this particular host, demo.dotCMS.com, and shows the graphing and charting that was built in Google Data Studio. Although you could use, and we have several clients using, other analytics system and exposing whatever they configure in those other analytics systems here, so that they just don't have to travel constantly between the two to get analytics on each host, even if they're doing multi-tenant. We have a full workflow task manager that shows to me as a highest level user. It shows me not only the tasks that are assigned to me, but actually I could look by a particular other user, or I could look by a particular role. I could look at the tasks that are assigned to them. I could look by a workflow scheme. I could look by the step inside of that workflow scheme, the editing step or whatever, and I could then search and find the tasks that are associated with them, or reset and go back to my own tasks. And we have a site browser where you can see kind of the complete website tree. If I had more than one website, I could click, here and then either start typing and find the website immediately. Like I said, we have clients that have, thousands of web pages on one server, and it would autocomplete and just find the website very, very quickly. And you can see I'm seeing the entire site. Whenever I go to my content tab and I go to the, search the content repository for anything, I'm seeing tons of different content. I see widget content types. I see regular content types, contact us forms, file content types, page content types, personas, vanity URLs. But if I log in as a limited user, we have a proxy login feature, so I can log in as Joe Contributor, and our role-based system allows me to, once I've set up that user, I'm going back to that default dashboard. So if I look at his tasks portlet, it only allows him to see tasks that are assigned to him, and that's it. Whenever he goes to the site browser, he's only looking at the host, yes, but he can't right-click and do anything to the host. He can't change the name of the host or anything like that. and he can add new things inside this one little area that he manages on the site. If we go to the content search manager, instead of seeing all of those content types, he or she sees only the content types that they deal with, this contact us form content and this document file content type. And not only that, but the buttons that appear to the right of each content type as it's edited or created can be totally customized and controlled. And what happens whenever I click Save as Draft as this user, you can see that that document management workflow scheme has been associated with this document content type. And this particular user sees only Save as Draft. If I log in to contribute the same exact type of content as a different user, they will see more than Save as Draft. So that's totally customizable as well. So let me log out as Joe and then start looking at what is a page. I'm looking at your list and I'm going to start going down your list independently. Okay, so now I'm back in as the admin user. I'm going to open up an index page. Oh, well, I actually wanted to open up in the About Us index page. I was looking at the main site. So this is the back end view of that About Us page that we were looking at just a little bit ago. And there's 3 different types of views here. If I look at edit view, it shows me all of my editing controls over every piece of content, widget, or piece of content on the page. If I look at preview mode, this shows me without the editing tools, my latest draft changes to the content on the page. If I look at live mode, it only shows me the last published version of this page. So let's go back to edit mode. Let's go and make some changes, preview them, see what's changed between the draft mode and the publish mode, and see what you can do. And I'm going to show you these features right here. So let's just say I wanted to make a change to the piece of content here. I can click in and edit it. So I can, this is just a simple content type with just a title and a WYSIWYG so they can put, large amounts of text and maybe some images there in the middle or something like that. So I'm going to, I added something here, and maybe I'll delete this last line here, right? And then I'll lock for editing. We have pessimistic content locking, and I'll save the changes to that portion of the page. Now what I can do is I can look in preview mode, and it shows it to me without the tooling. Also from preview mode, you can see that I added something here, and then that last line has gone down here. If I look in live mode, however, the I added something there is not there. So how do you preview if you've got 20 different pieces of content on a page? How do you know what has changed? Because it could be the content you're editing, and it could be, 10 other pieces of content that have also changed on the page. So we have this little what's changed here where you can click on what's changed, and it does a diff on all of the contents on the page between the draft mode and between the last published version of the page, and shows you the strike through and all that good stuff, right? Also, in preview or live mode, you can take a look and see what it looks like on different devices. So if I wanted to, look on an iPhone 6, I can test the responsiveness of my menuing, can test, how the rest of the page looks. I can make sure I look at my wrapping, I see I added something here, and test the responsiveness of my design. I can also look, let me go back to desktop. I can look in different languages. So as many languages as I have installed, I can preview the page in all of those languages. I can also preview the page if I do have some personalized content. I can click on that wealthy prospect, persona, retiree, first-time investor, global investor, and it's going to show me the dynamic content that is appealing to those personalized, personas. So let's just say that I wanted to further, let me show you something else. In addition to, and I'm about to show you how you can actually make a custom change to just this one page's layout if you have permissions. Everything's controlled by permissions. And if I have permissions, I can also reorder menus. So I could click here and look at that top level menu if I want About Us to appear first rather than second. And then I could make locations appear after team, and then I could, do whatever I want to the rest. I can click save, and then after I save these changes, then About Us should be over here on the left-hand side. If I click on Products, it's still over here on the left-hand side, and the changes were made here too. So let me go back to About Us, and let's just say I also wanted to make a change to the layout of the page. I'll say if I want 3 columns rather than 1 column. So I can click here, and this brings me into the custom layout manager. Now what this does is it doesn't change the template that was used to create this page. It creates a new layout that takes the base template and then associates a new layout with this particular template. So let's say if I wanted to grab this guy, I'm a little bit zoomed in right now. Say if I wanted to change him, maybe I'll stretch him back, and then I'll add a smaller container over here on the right hand side, and I'll reuse.
Question about what you're doing now, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
What about in like reactive view, right? Different resolutions like mobile, desktop, high res, and in your layout manager, being able to control what the view should look like in different resolutions. Is that at a widget level, or is that at a layout level as well?
You would do that at the code level, and I'll show you where the themes are. You would define that by theme, and then those themes would kind of wrap around what you're doing here in the containers. So if you wanted to specifically say if mobile, then do a certain thing, or parse this container or not, you could do that in the anywhere in the 4 files that actually control the entire theme that is used by this page. Okay. So that's usually handled in what's a specific file called the HTML_head VTL. But this is using the framework Bootstrap, so it should be responsive no matter what you do to it because it's using this responsive theme. But if I wanted to change themes on the fly and I wanted to change it, from one theme to another theme or a mobile theme or something like that, I could do that as well. But usually all of the themes are smart enough to provide the proper responsiveness to whatever type of device by the 4 files that comprise them, right? If I go ahead and you can also make changes to, header, footer, side nav if you want or not. And so then if I save my changes here, I go back to content. Now I've got this extra column to the right-hand side showing you, in addition to no-code navigation movement, in addition to no-code layouts. Now, if I wanted to no-code put a video on a page from Vimeo or from YouTube or from your own video repository, it doesn't matter. So I can build widgets for my content publishers so that in a no-code way, they can just click here and say, I want to pull a video from Vimeo or YouTube, or I want to create any of these other dynamic types of listings. So if I pick on YouTube and, I do mutual funds and I search for a video, and then I find the video that I'm looking for, and I just do a one-click, no code, no typing in URLs or anything. This communicates with the YouTube API, brings everything down, forces it to these fields so that the user only has to do search, choose, and they're done. I save and publish my video and place it on the page, and I've got this video over here. If I don't like the way this looks, I could go ahead and just grab my content and drag it around. So if I want this over here, I want this management listing back over here, whatever I want to do, as long as the webmaster has said I am allowed to put the content in the, some content you could permission it so that they can't do things like this, and say, no, videos aren't allowed here, or events aren't allowed over here, whatever way that you want to do that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for example, I saw that list contained like video carousel and other items. Mm-hmm. Where are those being populated from? Like, where is that functionality coming from?
Okay, so if you take a look at any of the, so here's the content. The content actually never lives on any page at all. It's totally separated into all of these different content types. There's a regular content type that can have any fields that you customize. So employee content type would look like this, have its own searchable fields. If I added a new piece of content, these would be employee content types. If I wanted to say I want to add widgets, like I want to create a brand new news listing. Here's the news listings. Here's the searchable fields on news listings. And this widget, if I entered a new news widget, I say, okay, what kind of news listing do you want? Do you want the headline to be styled in what way? How many results do you want to pull? What do you want to include in the list that we're going to dynamically create for you in the news listing? What kind of, do you want to sort the news by any type of category? Do you want the list to be paginated, items per page? Now, you might say, okay, well, where does the webmaster create this type of thing for me? Whenever we go to content types, and if I'm going too deep, tell me and I'll just back off. But there's all sorts of different content types here. Regular content type, widget content type, file, page, key value, and each have their own system fields. So if I wanted to create a new regular content type or widget content type, I could just choose it from here. Let's say I want to do a regular content type because I want to create imdb.com here on this website. And, so I can add drag and drop text fields. So title, and I want to create movie listings. Maybe it'd be required. Okay. Then I want a poster so that I'll be able to put a movie poster here. I just put poster, right? And I need something to describe the movie. So I can put description.
What you're doing here is building up the data model of what it's supposed to hold.
Exactly. So I can make that user searchable or not. And let's say I need a new category. I typically do, because it's so easy to understand taxonomies this way. So if I needed to, on imdb.com, I'm creating this website, the most popular by genre, and I need all these taxonomies, comedy, sci-fi, all that type of stuff. So then what I typically do is I open up two tabs so I don't have to leave what I'm currently editing. So I'll open this in a new tab, and I'll create a brand new category, a new taxonomy called a genre, right? And of course, since I've done this a few times, I can click right into genre and import a CSV list of, it only has 4 columns. It's not a big deal. As a matter of fact, I can even show it to you. Yeah, if you look at my picture, you can see it's just got name, key, the variable name, and a sort order number. So that whenever I imported it, it's instantly into the order that I want. Now I've got 26 different taxonomies here for my movies. Right? If I wanted to go in and import sci-fi subset, I can do that at the tertiary level and then choose a different file, which I have a little sci-fi subset, does the same thing, import him. Now I've got a whole bunch of sci-fi subsets that I can apply to movies. So now I just grab my, sure.
I get everything you're doing here, and I think it's great, and I love the detail that you're going into. Do you have the ability to manipulate these types in the models and the data through an API as well?
Yes, and if you look in our documentation,
okay.
If you just do there and you just put in our REST APIs, resources documentation.
Right. And so you have the ability that these could be updated by third-party
yes.
data sources to update them on the fly.
Yeah. And if you look just REST API for content types, you can update, you can create content types, you can do the, here's a content type API. There's a content API, there's a content type API, there's a workflow API. Everything can be injected into, communicated with, pulled from, whatever you need to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so really easy to create brand new content types. So here's the brand new content type that uses those fields that we just created. Right, select my categories, all that good stuff. I can remove one if I don't like biography, and upload a new poster and pick a poster of a movie and Guardians of the Galaxy, and And there's my movie. We have an image editor that you can make, scaling or grayscale or, color schemes. So you just click on edit image. We'd be able to start editing the image. And just I'm going to put blah, blah, blah down here, save and publish. And then it's instantly searchable by all the fields that I said it was searchable by. So if I click on action, I click search, I'm looking at my movie list. If I click on biography, which I canceled out of there, then, he's not going to show up on the list. Right. So that's how to create a content type. So if I wanted to create a content type that was a widget, and I train this as a standard part of my web developer training, then I would just say widget, and I would say movie listing widget, and I create that, and then it gives me specific fields for then adding parameters like, okay, add a category. And the widget code is going to use that genre category so that people can create a listing of action movies only automatically with no code. Of course, I would have to get my web developer training so I know how to put that code inside the widget code field that uses the genre field and the other fields that I'm adding to create that listing so that people could just come to the content tab and say, I want a listing of movies with these particular traits, and they no code, just like I showed you in the news listing, they add it and boom, it pulls exactly what they want to pull with them doing no code. Right.
So we talk about no code. As developers, we know that the holy grail is to be able to create stuff without having to have someone that can code. Mm-hmm. The reality in a lot of worlds is that you end up needing, I'm assuming that we can go down to the level of defining a data model, defining a velocity template, mm-hmm. defining a widget, and then saying, here's the 20 attributes for this widget, and then have the template write that out type of thing.
Mm-hmm. And you don't even have to create the templates either. All you have to do is say what framework you want to use and provide a theme right here. So now I'm going to create a new landing page with no code whatsoever, and we're going to design it and lay it out in whatever columns and rows we want with no code. And we can do that as many times as we wish using this intranet theme, which if we look at any of the themes, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 VTL files that roll, that do it all. And if we look in the Quest, it's got the same exact 4 files. And if we look in the ski resort, it's got the same exact 4 files. Each one has a kind of...
those files?
Sure. The template VTL is the one that calls the HTML_head, calls the header navigation, calls the footer, which usually has a lot of static stuff in it. Which one would you like to open?
You can start with template. If I just want to see what it looks like.
So this guy... And I hope I'm not intimidating anyone in the audience. Is everybody pretty much a coder or front-end developer of some sort?
Yep, okay. That's why.
Because marketers freak at this point whenever I show this. So
no, but for us, for me and for Xana, this is the level that we need to understand down to.
Sure.
To understand if the dotCMS can support what we want to do for our custom.
Okay. Right. Great. In our documentation, you'll see if you use the template designer, there's certain things that are set by the template designer. Like, does this theme or this template have a header, right? And if that's checked, then it'll set this system variable if .theme.html head, then parse the HTML_head VTL and parse the header VTL. Right? So that has your navigation view tool and everything like that. It picks up everything with a one checkbox, show on menu, and does it. Then it says if there's a sidebar set in the template designer, then lay it out the way that the person chooses in the template designer. And you'll see nobody ever really changes unless they don't want to use Bootstrap. They want to use some other framework. Nobody even has to change this. It's the same template VTL for all of our themes.
Right.
You could, but everything's fully exposed here, right? Okay. Nothing hidden. There's nothing that's, oh, well, this is something in a can. No. And then what you do is whenever then you pass it off. You're done whenever you create the theme with those 4 files. There is this might be helpful to show as well. In the HTML_head, every page has a field on it that's under the advanced fields that is SEO keywords or page metadata or mod date or SEO description.
Yep.
So it'll pick it up automatically and include it as long as that exists on the page. And you could do something dynamic here as well if like the user doesn't fill out the information on the page.
So
that's what we do on our site.
Yeah. Here that your whole framework is based on, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your whole framework under the hoods is built up based on velocity template engines.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So I'm very familiar with velocity and template engines. Mm-hmm. So I get where you're going. What about the ability to integrate with client-side widgets? So velocity is very much server-side driven, right? Of outputting the HTML. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming if we wanted to do React or Vue.js widgets on the front side, that we could customize that into the template language just to output, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, our backend here is Angular, right? So we're doing, our entire backend is, Angular run. So, whatever in every single area of your page, of your templates, of your content even, you can put any flavor of JavaScript you want, HTML, velocity, all play together the same way. So in any of those files, you can do that. And you can also, via the REST API would be the best way to do that. You can call anything that you create and modify it or, whatever you want to do.
Now, one of our business requirements is to be able to do A/B testing. Mm-hmm. So part of that is do you support any, based on your dotCMS, do you support any plugins for doing A/B testing?
We already have several clients using Optimizely. Not sure if you're familiar with that, but.
Yep.
Okay, so doing things like that.
Evaluate HTML after the page is loaded. Like one of the ones, I think we are using VWO today. Mm-hmm. And basically you stick some HTML in the script statement in, and it can change the code after it's been presented on the client side.
Right. You just have to talk. We have the mechanics for it, but you just have to talk to somebody in support on how to actually hook up your particular tool. But like I said, we already have several clients who are using Optimizely, and we help them hook that up. So it requires some minor customization, but we've already done it before. Yep. With several clients. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see, site search. Well, here, I don't know if you have any questions about the template designer, but you can do things like this, and you can add containers. Our containers are the formatters of your content and say which content types are allowed to be exposed in a certain container if you add them statically. You can do a dynamic widget anywhere you want. Make sense?
Right. Yep, completely.
Just define the container, and then it really doesn't matter because once you define a particular, 2 or 3 column template or whatever, they can always, if you give them permissions, customize it using that layout guy.
One question.
Sure.
Say a website has multiple pages, but there are, say, 3 primary categories for the pages, and each of them have, say, a unique header. Is that possible, or do all pages have to share the same header footer?
Yeah, what you can do is you've got a variety of options there. You can make, if you want to use one header, you can just make the header smart. And I've done this several times where I just say, okay, if I'm on this page, then parse this file. If I'm on the other page, parse the other file. You could even make it dynamic based upon personas. So you can make that dynamically driven, or you could, on each page, you can call a different, template which parses a different file. You can put a header widget. You can also, if you just got a one-off and you want to take care of it really, really quickly, we have an example right here where you can create an advanced template. And you've got total control and say, I want to parse the same containers as my other guy does. I want to add them, and it parses the container for you automatically. You wrap it up in whatever divs you want, and you also can use the same exact files that the theme uses. So if you just got a one-off for a landing page or something like that, Matter of fact, we have both types for our intranet page. We have an intranet homepage, which is just pure code if you want to take pure code control over your entire theme. And it looks just like if I create, I'm using the same exact files as if I created an intranet theme here. So whatever way that you want to do it,
Right. So it really depends on what type of flexibility you're looking for. Is it decision-driven tree, or is it simple show this or show that?
Yeah, it's either, because you could even make the header a container if you wanted to, and just parse a different container on each page, use the same theme, and then just parse a different header up at the top. So
one of the questions I would have is, our company, and I'm sure you've run into this already, is very big on ALI compliance, accessibility compliance.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we look at using a tool or a chat, a third-party chat application or anything that, we always have to consider ALI compliance.
Well, we do have here on the WYSIWYG, this is just a tiny MCE WYSIWYG. It's not our WYSIWYG. It's a WYSIWYG standard. It does have appliance checking. So if we click here, we can automatically get the compliance check on this content as part of any piece of content itself. If you wanted to build this into a workflow and then tap into this functionality as, I click it and I want it to pop up as part of the workflow, it would require minor customization, but, it's already built in right here.
Okay. Okay, I think we're coming towards the end of the hour. I think you've thrown a lot at us. Frizana, and I really appreciate that. Frizana, do you have any questions at this point?
Not really, no.
Okay. So I think what I'd like to do is set up a second call, if that's okay.
Okay.
To sort of start to go over that list that I provided on the first call.
Okay.
My initial request. And if we can maybe, do a walk through that for stuff that you do support, say, yes, we do support it. For stuff that we don't support, fair enough. For stuff that's sort of in between, just sort of talk about the strategy of how to approach it.
Okay.
And then I think from there, I think it would be good for us to read through some of your documentation, some of your tutorials, and then look at shortlisting and moving basically into a prototype where we actually play with it a bit and get to understand it a bit more.
Yeah, I really would like the opportunity to do that, because after looking on your list, I commented to Tim, I was like, you guys are pretty much a perfect fit. There's not a single thing that we can't do out of the box on your list, except for the A/B testing just requires a config because everybody wants to use something different, right? The single sign-on, we've got the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States as a client that just signed on, and we passed all of their all their sign-on requirements, which is extensive. Whether you want to do OAuth 2, whether you want to do LDAP, whether you want to do SAML, whatever flavor of OAuth, that's fine. And so there's a lot of things here that I still have left to show that show you out of the box pretty much every checkbox that you've got. The search.
And that's one of the things when I was quite impressed with your product when I was evaluating and looking at different ones. I really like the hybrid solution, mm-hmm. where content's content, but you can go past that to actually build widgets, build components, and also, if I'm correct, unless we're going to start building Java plugins for the backend or Java widgets are going down to that level. We need to reboot ever.
Nope. I've got a HubSpot plugin deployed right here on this server that's not standard, but I was doing it for a demo for a client. And you just stop or start them right here. No restart of the server required.
And so you can actually develop your own plugin, if I'm hearing you correct?
Oh yeah, I mean in the matter of a few hours.
Even develop our own Java plugin.
Mhm.
We could upload it, and I'm assuming this just sticks it in the lib directory and hot reloads the lib directory, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this
Perfect.
is. Yeah.
When would you be available next to go through a deeper dive on some of the items on our list?
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. Let me defer to Tim on that, but I think that we should be able to, accommodate your schedule and do it whenever you need to do it. So whether that's,
We'd be looking at sometimes next week,
okay.
maybe Wednesday, Thursday, if that's possible.
Yeah, for me personally,
Like,
which I could show you the rest of those things on your list, Thursday would be better because I've got another big demo to a California company. Financial institution on Wednesday, and I'm kind of prepping up for that. But Thursday would work perfect for me if that works for you.
yeah, so if you want to maybe connect with Tim and send something out tomorrow for that demo on Thursday, that would be great.